Hello everyone, welcome back to VK's channel. In today's video we're gonna be checking the Beitong Asura 2 Pro, and apparently this controller has 2000 Hz of polling rate, making this the fastest controller in the moment. And in the box we have a very simple manual. In the box you'll get the controller, a 2.4 GHz dongle, and a USB Type-C cable. I wasn't expecting this, but the painting on this controller is pretty amazing. It appears to be white, but it has a shiny green coating in the front shell. You have mechanical face buttons, with a good travel distance and a good resistance, and they don't sink flat with the shell. The shutter buttons has a similar texture to the Zeus 2, but they are much more quieter. And the triggers are Hall effect triggers, again very smooth and silent. I can't say the same thing for the back buttons though, they are very loud. And you have this door on the back which you can use to start the dongle. Personally, I love this feature. It makes sure that you'll never lose the dongle of your controller. The D-pad is also fully mechanical, and it has a pivot in the center preventing you from hitting all four directions. And the analog sticks are entirely made of plastic, with no anti-friction rings. And they're transparent too, letting you see the Hall effect module inside. All of the menu buttons are membrane buttons. And you have a ring RGB light around the home button. And I forgot to test, but the shutter buttons are very easy to hit in any region. The same applies for the back buttons. Another weird detail is that the home button can turn on the controller, but it cannot turn it off. Turns out that to turn off the controller you must hold back and B. Also, this controller cannot turn on the Nintendo Switch. But it is compatible with the console and will work normally. There is motion controls. And another weird thing is that the home button will not work as a home button. On Nintendo Switch, the home button is the shift button. And to capture screenshots, you must hold down turbo and press the right stick. I have no idea why it works like this. This is very unconventional. Another weird thing is that if you unpair the controller or want to use it on a different switch, you won't be able to pair it with the same pair combination you see on the manual. Turns out that you must first erase the Bluetooth pairing in order to register a new device. First you turn off the controller, then you press the right button, right stick, back button, and home button. This will erase the previous pairing and allow the controller to be paired again. Testing on PC, it has no cardinal snapping. The center dead zone is a bit big, but you can change it on the PC app, which I'll show later. And the circularity test is perfect. Testing the Dpad, the diagonals are very easy to hit, and the input is very consistent too. And as I mentioned before, there is a pivot in the center preventing you from hitting all four directions. When using on PC, the triggers are analog triggers. The turbo button activates or deactivates turbo, and the shift button will shift between the D-pad and analog sticks. Finally, testing the polling rate, I get 1860 Hz. The polling rate on this controller is variable and will change depending how fast you move the sticks. This was with the wired connection, but now let's try with the dongle. And impressively, with the dongle I get better results. Testing later, I was able to get it very close to 2000 Hz as you can see here. And here's a look at the app. You can only configure the controller with a wired connection. You have a quick panel which you can use to adjust various settings. But to show you everything, I'm gonna use the Advanced tab. Here you have the name of the controller, you can adjust the lighting mode or change the color, just like the Zeus 2. This frequency slider is for the light modes. I thought it was for the vibration adjustment, but it's not. The vibration can be adjusted on the two sliders on the bottom. On the button tab, you can configure every button you see here. And you can only remap controller buttons. I tried mapping a keyboard key but had no success. And every time you want to remap the back buttons, you must use this PC app. On the Sticks tab, you can change the curves of the analog sticks, and you can also set a button to trigger the curve switch. Again, there's less options here than the Zeus too. If you think that the dead zones are too big, you can also decrease them here. This automatic centering is an auto calibration feature. On the somatosensory option, you can map the gyro controls to the left or right sticks. And lastly, you can calibrate the controller or change the sleep timers. And that's pretty much it for this app. You have only one profile. It is also on the latest firmware, so there's no new features. And here you can switch between the PC and Nintendo Switch configurations. Moving to the teardown, you have 6 screws on the back, and 1 additional screw on the dongle slot. And after removing the screws, the back shell comes out very easily. This is great for repairability. We can see here that the back shell has added weights. You can remove them if you want to make the controller lighter. And the construction of the back buttons is very good. There is a small silicone rubber to dampen the pressure on the switches. Here on the back, the rumble motors and the battery are easily disconnected. I tried to unpeel the sticker on the battery to see the capacity, but it's using a pretty strong glue. I tried my best to remove it, but at this point I didn't want to puncture the battery and make it explode. But in the manual we can see that it has 600 milliamps. Removing the mainboard, we can see the Dpad and the membranes for the menu buttons. The face buttons uses a different membrane for each button, and the layout is fixed and cannot be changed. The face buttons uses scale switches, and here we can see a metal pivot on the triggers. The Hall effect sensors here have the Beitong brand, but they're just like the K-Silver modules. I'm not sure if these are actually Beitong sticks or they're just K-Silver stick rebranded for Beitong. And here's the mechanical switches for the D-pad. There is a rubber membrane on top of it, but these membranes are just for making the button press more smooth. And interestingly, the switches of the back buttons are the same as the D-pad. Perhaps on the D-pad they are less noisy because they are covered by a bigger membrane than the back buttons. And for my final thoughts, if you want to have the least amount of latency, this is the best controller you can get right now. The polling rate is the fastest I've seen so far. The D-pad and analog sticks are very good too. The buttons are fully mechanical, and this means that they're more durable than membrane buttons. There's also 2 back buttons with macro functionalities, turbo, a dedicated PC app, and a storage for the dongle. The construction is very great too. It's very easy to open and repair. The only con is that the usability is not that good. You can only configure the back buttons using the PC app, and you also only have one profile, meaning that if you want to use it on a different game, you have to go to your PC to reconfigure everything. And that's it for today's video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.